Our AI can now step in and say, which one? That's a good starting point. What is broken about it? Is it leaking? Is the toilet seat falling off? Is it not flushing? Like, it can gather some information. If it's leaking, try turning off the water. Oh, here's how to turn off the water. We can triage a lot of that stuff so that by the time you do get a maintenance request, you don't have to do the back and forth. Last maintenance request I got is in the middle of a pretty important meeting. I'm trying to jump in and back and forth, like, where is this? It was a sink. Which sink is broken? Took me like 30 minutes to get that answer. And now I'm thinking about it and I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing during the day. And that's where I think landlording can be a challenge, is the mental energy. We already talked about the costs part of it and the revenue and the growth and things like that. But like the mental energy is not what I'm excited for. And I think AI can triage a lot of that.
All right. Hello, everyone. Rick Albert here with another episode of the Key to the City of Angels. I'm super excited to have Harrison Stevens, VP of Marketing over at Turbo Tenant here. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for this conversation. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Some people know this, but we were on the panel discussion not too long ago, and that's how we met. But I've actually had people reach out saying how great that one was. No pressure. Let's see what we can do.
Hey, this is going to be better than that one, all right? That's the goal.
There you go. Let's just hope the other people didn't hear it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what you guys do, and then we can dive into everything on the back end.
Yeah. So we're trying to make having a rental business easier, more affordable, more successful for independent landlords. I'm talking about people that are doing what we're doing. We have a real job all day, and then we have investment properties that are creating some hopefully wealth for you on the side. We are not building software for corporate landlords that own 5,000 doors. Typical landlord on our platform, a lot of them have one property. Some of them have 10, some of them have 50. But we're really looking for solutions that fit that need of the mom and pops, is what we had said earlier. And that is helping them find tenants, screen tenants, state and city specific lease agreements. I know it's important where you guys are out in LA. Yeah. And then, also rent collection, maintenance requests, communication. Just how you communicate with people these days is changing. And we provide a free tool that does a lot of that as well. And one of the beautiful parts about our business model is it's free to try indefinitely. You can use a lot of the features that we talk about all the time for free. But if you do upgrade to premium, which unlocks a lot of things, it caps out at $199 a year for unlimited properties. That includes bookkeeping and a lot of other things that we build. So if you have one property, you want to get to 2, 3, 4, 5, it gets cheaper because we don't charge anymore. We want to see you add more properties and gain wealth.
And it's interesting because all my clients are mom and pop investors. Let me rephrase that. All my clients that do invest are mom and pop investors. And a lot of them, some just do a basic spreadsheet, right? But look, I have one. So take a couple phone calls, track it. I have other clients who are kind of like what you're saying. It's like, no, we need to treat this like a business. We need the systems in place because they are hoping to scale. Or even if they don't hope to scale, I think it's good just to have everything in one spot. Right? Yeah, so go for it.
And I had a spreadsheet too. When I started as a landlord, I had a spreadsheet. And then I'm at least tracking financially what's going on. I like finance a lot. I want to build wealth. So that stuff, it made a lot of sense to me. But then how did I screen a tenant? Did I even use a really good service? It was actually pretty good. I got lucky. Yeah. And then communication. I'm finding messages on WhatsApp from my tenant from a year ago because I don't use WhatsApp. All of these things just started to add up. And when I frankly discovered Turbo Tenant through them recruiting me for this job, it was like, if it wasn't broke, I didn't need to fix it. And then I realized how broken it was. And I was getting lucky, honestly. And I think that's the part that is interesting of how do you convert people? This is marketing, the marketing part of me, not the real estate side. How do I convert people from using nothing, thinking it's fine, to using something that's more sophisticated, that's really affordable, and compared to a property management company, way more affordable and honestly better in so many ways, because at least we're standardizing and automating things versus you're getting whatever you're getting from them, and that varies wildly.
You brought up something interesting. So I have some properties self-managed, some with property managers, and I've worked with different property managers, and we've had to fire a lot of them. And I think part of it was because, Like you'll see them in forums like, hey, we're here to protect your home and blah, blah, blah. And it's, I think you're missing the point. This is a business to business transaction, right? And then when they start adding all the fees, so people are like, oh, they only charge 6%. They only charge 10%. No, they have markups on repairs. They have finding the tenant. They have lease renewals. We're talking one piece of paper that sends out for electronic signature costs $200 now.
Yeah.
It ends up being like, I think Bigger Pockets did a study. I think it was like 15 to 18% of the rents is ultimately what it costs.
Yeah, I hear the 10% a lot, and people don't talk about the little hidden fees along the way. And yeah, to send over a renewal of a lease agreement and have it e-signed, I don't know what it costs us. It's got to be like a quarter of a penny.
Right.
Why would you charge $200 for that? Like, this is almost 2026 these days. That was technology that I had in college, and that was a while ago. DocuSign and e-sign and all these things are not new things. And it's so easy, but this is just how they make margins for doing things that are automatic and with software.
Yeah. And to be in the property management, I was actually talking to one of my property managers who is very good. I talked to him the other day. The problem is there actually isn't a lot of money in property management. If you're only charging 10%, rent's $2,000 a month. Like I can't pay an assistant off $200 a month. Yeah. So that's really, it's a very torn relationship. I was like, the more you charge me means the less money I make, which means less properties I can buy, which means less you manage. But on the flip side, I get it. You have staff, you got to make a living. So it's a very complicated situation. So that's why I think a lot of people, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start heading towards more self-management in general, especially more like outside of LA.
Yeah, I think especially when margins get tight, like the self-management makes sense. That's why I started self-managing. If I took 10% out, that was my profit. Oh, I could now break even and hope that maybe I sell it one day for profit. But that's not why you have a rental property. Is you should make money on a regular basis and then sell it and make a lot more money, is my view personally. And that's why I went do it yourself or self-managing. And in some markets, those margins are really small, and it gets challenging. And all of the reasons why we're building software to automate, because it's so easy. And the other side that we'll all be watching, I'll be watching it a lot, is how much AI and software do these property management companies use to automate basically what we've already built? And do they pass those savings on to you, or are they just improving their margins? We'll see. I think it's going to all depend on how good do they build things compared to a software company.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, and then we'll go into AI because I think it's a buzzword, but we'll go into it.
I
have a lot of, because I'm selling my last LA property. So I'm down to 3 different markets. And so I have clients who talked about investing out of state. And I'm like, you have to understand, it's either a trade-off. You're either investing for appreciation or you're investing for cash flow. That's just the world we're in right now. And so it's hard to have your cake and eat it too. It's like Nashville's a great market to invest in, but the margins are getting tight because it's appreciated really. Birmingham, really good for cash flow, but you're not going to get much on the appreciation side. It's just trade-offs. Yeah. Because of that, I do think that it is, if someone wants to spend the time, they can self-manage, even if it's out of state, locally, whatever. And I think AI will play a role. I don't think AI is necessarily designed to take over the job, but I think it's here to help you with the systems, especially if you've never done it before. So where are you seeing AI play a role in all this?
Yeah, I think, it's not going to take over the whole thing, at least not with the AI that we have today. We can see what happens next year. Yeah. The rate it's moving. I think when you have we talked about this last time, I think when you have a really specific job that's pretty straightforward and consistent, AI is great for that.
Okay, fair enough.
And, I have this criteria. Any lease that comes through, I want to make sure that they fit this mold. AI can read that and say, this person, this application is really the right word. This application comes in, it scores it in a way consistent on what you're looking for. Credit scores above this. Like AI can do some of that work for you pretty easily. We use AI a lot in conversations, and that works really well. We have an AI that can say, hey, my tenant wants a dog. Can they? AI can look at your lease. They can look at where the property is located. They can look up a state law and say, all right, in LA, this is the amount you can charge for a pet. Your lease does allow pets. if they give you a deposit and whatever the specifics are. I don't know the details in LA. And then it can give you that information, and then you can decide as a landlord, all right, you now know the legal side of it. Are you going to allow this or not? As long as it's not discriminating against whatever they're asking for. And
Sure.
I think those things, they can even let you know. You can or cannot say no. Emotional
Right.
support animal, stuff like that. So we have AI that can look up in our database and your lease and say yes. And I think that's a lot of what the communication can save a lot of time on. We released an AI for maintenance. We get thousands and thousands of maintenance requests on a regular basis to all of the 900,000 landlords using our software. Some of them are a waste, a frustration point for landlords. Maintenance request, toilet's broken. Our AI can now step in and say, which one? That's a good starting point. What is broken about it? Is it leaking? Is the toilet seat falling off? Is it not flushing? Like, it can gather some information. If it's leaking, you try turning off the water. Oh, here's how to turn off the water. We can triage a lot of that stuff so that by the time you do get a maintenance request, you don't have to do the back and forth. Last maintenance request I got is in the middle of a pretty important meeting. I'm trying to jump in and back and forth, like, where is this? It was a sink. Which sink is broken? Took me like 30 minutes to get that answer. And now I'm thinking about it and I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing during the day. And that's where I think landlording can be a challenge, is the mental energy. We already talked about the costs part of it and the revenue and the growth and things like that. But like the mental energy is not what I'm excited for. And I think AI can triage a lot of that. And that's where we've leaned in a little bit on what to build. But again, very specific use cases. If you want AI to just manage your property, you'd have to build a lot of use cases and build them one by one. And we're building one at a time, but even on our side, I think it will take a while because there's also the customer service side of your tenant. And
you beat me
AI
to it.
Should be a benefit. And we've all had chatbot experiences where it's like, God, I really hate this AI. We want to make
representative.
Yes. How many times can you hit 0 on the IVR? That's not the point, but that's where a lot of AI ends up falling into, is a race to the middle. That's where we'll see it get better, but we're being really thoughtful. I have a person on customer support. Their entire job is training AI all day. And that's why I think our support AI is really great, but it's been trained for a year. That's the thing that they don't talk about enough. It's not like this AI is just out of the box. It requires a lot of training. Now, it does take the job of 13 people, that those 13 people now spend more time on the phone with more complicated issues. So we've actually scaled up the team thanks to AI instead of letting people go. And we have the easy stuff that's very specific taken care of at massive scale. That's the great use of AI. There's all sorts of other uses that are just wildly different.
Yeah. No, and that's fair, because that's always been a big fear of people who want to get into investing. They're like, I don't want to take the calls. Or I actually know an investor. He has a tenant. He'll reach out. He doesn't even respond. He actually gives him a few hours, and then all of a sudden the tenant will respond, okay, I figured it out, thanks. He doesn't even respond anymore. The guy figures it out. He just freaks out in the beginning.
It's a good time.
Right? Because I've heard of different things. I've heard of investors provide like a handbook. Hey, before you call me, check the breaker, do this, do that. But then they're like, but the tenants don't check anyways. They still call.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that. I think of coming back from a bar in college and the toilet is leaking into the living room, just overflowing. And this is a long time ago. They gave me a book to call different numbers. I don't know. I looked through it. I just come back from the bar, so I wasn't reading at the highest level. And I just called like a service pro group, and they came out, they fixed it. Somehow I got a better deal than whatever they were going to pay. So the landlord ended up being happy, but I didn't read it. And I think that's the stuff of, especially with these days, you got to make it accessible and easy so that when a panic moment happens, the tenant goes there and doesn't go to a binder. But the binders are a really good step in the right direction.
But I'll make the argument that tenants are our customers.
Yes.
And so if there's a toilet broken, I don't know if I'd go through a binder. I'd be like, no, my job's not to maintain this house. It's your job.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of the binder, but then I also get it why a tenant would be like, no, I'm good. But if there's a chat bot that's like, hey, look, I'm still reaching out to the landlord, quote unquote, and then we're going through the steps, then yeah, it makes it easier. I'm curious, and I don't know if you know this yet. I wonder if landlords could put that like in marketing, for example. Hey, look, when you rent from us, we are backed by AI, which which sometimes I hear that and I'm like, that's a shut off. But in this case, I'm like, no, it actually allows us to do a better job responding so we can actually fix the problem faster and more accurately.
We are not doing it, but as the marketer,
Yeah, you're like taking notes.
I was like, oh, this is an interesting thing because like we provide AI descriptions and headlines when you list a property with us, and then we syndicate it out to all the platforms. And
Yeah.
we know that a certain length is right and a certain amount of pictures. Once people start putting more than 10 pictures, the conversion rate slows down, which is interesting. Like too many pictures for a rental. Now, if I'm buying a house, I want to see everything. I want the virtual walkthroughs and stuff. But for a rental, like sometimes too much isn't helpful. So we have that. And as you say that, I'm like, I wonder if we could train our AI to test that out. And we have 24/7 communication support through Turbo Tenant. Is that going to help? Is it going to be worse? Yeah. I got product people right around the corner that I'm going to just share the idea. It's a fascinating one.
Because I think that's what people want. They want speed to having issues. I think across the board, rents are generally going up. We are seeing down in parts of Florida, parts of Texas, because they've been able to keep up with demand. Good for them. But like in LA or even parts of Denver, because Denver gets expensive, it's I'm paying $5,000 a month for this place. I expect a response.
Yeah. And I've learned that too. As you go up in rent, the expectation of how you're treated goes up too. I've heard some people
understandably.
They invest in working class areas with low rent because the expectations are also low. And I've heard that in some areas. Yeah. You go on the other side of certain highways and the rent drops a lot, but the clientele actually sometimes take better care of your houses. They tend to be working class people. They clean more. Like they really, this is their home. They care a lot. So it's an interesting thing. I don't know what to say about it. Just strategies.
There's different classes for different reasons, right?
Yeah, and I expect when I think about this more on Airbnb when I travel with my family, of you have the corporate Airbnb experience, and then you have the person that this is like their nest. This is how they're gonna retire one day, and oftentimes those people are really wonderful to work with. Like they communicate well. They're so kind. They sometimes give you a bottle of wine when you walk in the door. Like it feels like you're in their home. Versus I've had the second 11 o'clock hit, someone's knocking on the door to clean the place and you got to get out with the corporate side. And I steer away from them personally as Airbnb. I still use Airbnb regardless. It's good for a family of 4. But that's the kind of stuff that when I'm looking at my next rental, because I might have to rent, we were talking about this about I might renovate my home. I might have to rent even for a midterm. I'd like to work with somebody that feels like they can. That might be worth $200 more to me. Hope not maybe $2,000, but a little bit more. If I had to choose between two, someone that's going to work with me and care and provide a good service is going to be worth more than somebody that like is not going to respond. They're not going to care, especially at the rate I might have to pay in Denver.
Yeah. And look, you go through a home, you're immediately going to tell.
Yeah.
If everything's dated, I already know how this is going to play out. I remember when my wife and I, we built our second house hack. So we had the main house, we did an addition, remodel. The intention was actually to move in, but like most projects, over budget, over time. We had built out the ADU, converted the garage. We literally just got married. I'm like, fun fact, we're moving into the studio. And she's, what? And I'm like, we're broke, but we're still technically living on the property, so we can still technically refinance. And so here we are, like in this little studio, which honestly worked out really well. But when we rented out the main house, it took a week. We asked for more than what the comps were showing. But then to your point, people walked through and they really noticed a difference.
Yeah. When I moved to Denver, we had a 6-month rental, and the guy that was renting it out, he was trying to do it himself. He listed it online himself, and walking through, like this was his bachelor pad. And it was a nice place. And then he had a little kid, and then they had to move to suburbia. And you could just, pretty sweet place. Like it was actually still the nicest place I've ever lived in, including the house I live in now. It's like a chef's kitchen, a built-in coffee machine. It was a very nice 6 months. And you could see him just staring at parts of the house that he missed. And he
Yeah.
really kept up. And I could tell that he would be a great person to work with. And throughout the whole experience, one or two things broke. He got someone out there. And then when it came time for us to move and he needed to find the next person, I showed the property for him.
Yeah.
And he took a little bit off the rent for me to do it. And I was working from home, so it was easy. And it was just like, it was a partnership. He made more money out of the deal, but like it felt good working with him. And like I hope to find that if I have to rent again in a similar relationship. And I want to be that for anybody that rents from me.
Yeah, I think customer service plays a huge role, right? Yeah. When I had my ADUs are known to have very high turnover. I had 2 tenants. First one was there for 3 years. Second one's still there, and she intends on staying till June. So it'll be about 1.5 years or so, 1 year and 8 months. That's just because college student. It's like, no, you provide a quality product, you respond. They don't want to move because they know they're not going to get that same experience elsewhere. So jumping back to our original conversation, when we're talking about software and what's going on, how does all of that kind of play a role in this customer service like atmosphere?
Yeah, so I do want to throw in a fun fact. Before this, I worked for a tech-enabled moving company. With transparent pricing, you can actually book a move online. And we had all this data, and moving was one of the top 3 most stressful things that happen in someone's life.
100%. I can attest to that.
Moving is more stressful than a divorce.
Okay.
And as sounds like 2 married guys, I'm terrified of a divorce personally. We'll move. So most people are the opposite. Most people would divorce before moving. So if you have high
which then means you still move, by the way. If you get divorced, you're still moving.
Yeah. What a weird stat. If you think about it, the more crazy it is. And if you have a property and people are moving out of it constantly, part of it might be, are you creating a crappy place to live or a bad experience? Mm-hmm. I think these days, going into your next question about software, people expect convenience. Like I expect to, if I go to dinner and I'm splitting the check with somebody, I expect the money pretty instantly online. Of maybe we don't split the check with 2 cards, but pay for it on my card or they will. I'll send them money instantly. Yeah. I expect to pay rent online. I expect to pay my bills online. If you're asking for checks in the mail, I'm super annoyed. It's like that's the expectation these days from most people. And every year that goes by, that expectation is going to grow because my generation, half of my childhood had the internet, half of it didn't. And I'm talking actually more of the second half, like later, maybe 6 years of my childhood until I graduated high school. Anyone younger than me, it's more only internet. And like I have my kids, they're like, what the heck is a cordless phone? Where's the pictures? And that's the experience that every new renter is going to have is everything is signed online, everything is paid online. And I don't really want to call. I only want to text and I only want to message. And I probably don't want to get to know you as a landlord. There's a really big wall. And that's where software is going to make it so much easier on everybody. That's really where we're seeing it all the time. We have a lot of investors in college towns, and they really get the value out of us because their clientele has no interest in speaking to them. And they kind of like it that way. And then it's all in one place. And those, I don't know what to do, I'm going to look on Turbo Tenant and try and find out, is the only place to look, and that's where everything is. That's the other value of it. And everything is getting more and more complicated when it comes to accounting, when it comes to leases, when it comes to rent control, which we talked about a little earlier today.
Yeah.
Why do you want to spend your time becoming an expert in all those details? Unless maybe that's your profession all day, Rick. But that's the part that we do. We have AI that actually looks at laws and then translates and alerts us when something new comes out. And then we have a paralegal go in and really learn it and then ingest it into our platform. That's the stuff that, like, why do you want to become an expert in laws in every single city? Unless you're doing work.
I mean, I think that, so it's always interesting because, and you see it online, there's a lot, so last week they announced that city council passed that we're capping rents at 4%, which is a little silly because it's always been like 3 to 4% anyways. But I'm reading a lot of the comments from like pro tenants and they're happy about it because they are tired of like bad customer service. Like one person I remember commented, I'm paying Mercedes prices for a Honda product. Things aren't getting done. And I also think that on the flip side, a lot of landlords don't necessarily know how to manage. I think that's kind of the problem. I do manage a Facebook group. And when I started in 2020, did not expect it. We're about 1,500 members, did not expect it to get that big. One of the things I learned is it was a lot of people inheriting these rentals. Which I thought was interesting. It wasn't people that like deliberately bought into it. It's been mostly inherited, or they've owned it for 30 years to where things weren't as complicated as it was before.
Yeah.
So how do you get someone who's owned their properties for 30 years, that's been doing things on a checkbook, right? A check register. Like, how do we get them, or how do you get someone onto a platform when maybe they're just not used to it?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned these examples, because in marketing, we will build personas of different types of customers we have.
Right. Avatars.
One of them is inherited landlords. It's actually one that we do really well with, because this property lands on their lap. They think software is probably out there, and then they discover us, and then they go all in. They adopt every single feature. Those are the easiest customers for me. The hardest are those 30 years, really 7 years or more. They have created this web of all of these individual processes connected together. And it becomes a little bit of a house of cards. Sometimes you're like, you take one thing out and then like it gets really hard all of a sudden. And we end up being a point solution for them. We'll do your background check. Maybe we'll do one other thing. And we get our foot in the door, and I try really hard. We have great marketing and we have a good team here, but we need to wait for the next problem to hit them.
Right.
Oh, I didn't get the maintenance request from the email they sent to this one inbox. And then they get reminded that, TurboTenant's an option, and they've already been onboarded on TurboTenant. They have one feature. Should I start to do that? And it's the only way that I've found that works, honestly, because that if it isn't broke, then don't fix it mentality, especially with my generation and older, is ingrained in us. Versus there's a world of everything should always be innovated and better that other generations have. That's really the challenge with this is, why? Why should I take the effort to really change my process if it's gotten me by for the last few years? And when I talk to them and I really dig into it, they start making a lot of excuses on why they are driving an hour and a half every month to go pick up a check.
Yeah.
So someone I'm related to, they're driving an hour and a half each way to pick up a check, complaining how hard it is to be a landlord, and it's not passive. I automate that. This is what I'm going to hear on Thanksgiving dinner in a week. And that's the part that, like, until you really say you're crazy, they don't really think about it. It's just business as usual. And it's a hard persona that we have, a user base, to talk into it. And we actually ask, how many years have you been a landlord? Or how many years have you been running rental properties? And we can almost bet on what features they're going to adopt and how quickly, based on that one question, among a few others. And we'll invest our time in the places that make sense and remind them and educate them over time, because they're a long-term sell.
Yeah. It was interesting because one comment that came up a lot in different Instagram posts and whatnot was, the landlords, it's just passive income. And I always explain to it, there's nothing passive about this except on your tax return. Yeah. Outside of that, there's nothing that's passive. And I think it's gotten more active over the years, because back in the day, it probably was, right? Like, some moved in, especially because here in LA, in the San Fernando Valley, which is the northern part of LA, those homes were probably built in like the 50s. So yeah, back in the 50s and 60s, the homes were practically brand new. Yeah, it probably was fairly passive. Now, Wall Street Journal came out back in January with an article saying, this is going to be the year of remodels. Is everything just getting so?
Right? So, I don't want to move. And no, it's not passive.
No.
It can be passive on a regular basis, but then it isn't out of nowhere. And I think as a landlord with my kids are under 5, 2 of them, and my wife works full time. So like my rental properties, they're newer, so that helps. And I've had the same tenant for a while, so that helps.
Yeah.
But months go by with nothing, and then something hits at never a good time. And I feel that problem longer than I enjoy the
Yeah.
3 months of silence. And that's just a little bit of just who I am.
Yeah.
But that is the nature of it. It is something. And can those headaches, I also, when they reach out, I'm trying to try and solve that as soon as possible
Sure.
because that's what I would want. And I think of it as customer service and I want them to stay as long as possible. I don't want to deal with a vacancy and things like that. And they're good people. And they've taken care of my place. Like I don't check it as often as I should. I've learned recently. The last time I went there, I was like, wow, the place looks really nice. Like they have nice furniture. They're taking really good care of it. I really appreciate them. I want them to stick around. Anytime they have a problem, I want to solve it because I'd want it solved immediately. I also don't want to think about it for more than a day or two. I've got other things I'd rather spend my time on. That mental energy is really my biggest investment.
Yeah.
And some of that our software can solve, some of it can't. Some of it is still, I got to find a way to solve that problem. And it's not software. So it's not going to be passive anytime soon.
And I think I had one of my investors, one of my longtime clients, we were talking about that. And one of the things he brought up, which was interesting, he's just like you said, a couple months, nothing, then all of a sudden something big happens. But it's more about when you get to a certain number of units, right? So you have one small problem, but if you have 7 units, what if all 7 units have one small problem?
Yeah.
That's where it becomes a little challenging. So how do you scale with software?
Yeah. For reference, I've only had 1 or 2 max. So I don't have 7 problems all hitting me at once. But it always rains, it pours, statement. Like whatever problems I'm having personally, I'm going to get a maintenance problem too.
Right.
How much can you take off your plate and automate is really where software comes in handy. Like rent collection, you should not be thinking about ever. We send, like the reminders come in automatically. The late fees come in automatically. The money should appear in your account on time. If not, that we're getting involved pretty quickly. And then we're letting you know that, all right, it's been 5 days. They're now really late. We've hit them with late fees. Now you do have to get involved. And then that's a whole different world of conversation. And maintenance requests, like every time they pay rent, we ask how things are going. It's good to find out that the toilet is dripping a little before it's a flood. So maybe you can be proactive and that kind of stuff. E-sign. If you're bringing someone in new, the move-in process should be really seamless. There's all these friction points that happen throughout. If you reduce the friction and all the problems happen at once, at least they're not as big as they could be.
Yeah.
Or you're collecting things like that AI feature we talked about of maybe we're getting all the triaging stuff early and you're getting complete stuff and then you can send it to your handyman. Those are the kind of things that we use the word friction a lot. How can we not only make it frictionless for us, but how can we reduce friction for you as a landlord every time? We have a digital home guide that says, here's who you call for this. Here's where things are. Here's how you can make it a home, things like that. And that's referenced in our AI too. If they start asking, hey, I have questions, we can do that stuff. So we're thinking about that. What's a headache?
Yeah.
Can we solve it? Can we make it a little better then? A problem that's 10% better is still better. And maybe we can make it another 10% better later. And that's what we do all day. And we have teams that just think about certain parts of the landlord journey all day. Just how do I market a property? I got a team that all they do is think about that. I got a team that only thinks about residency and maintenance and things like that and payments. That's a lot of energy that comes in 40 hours a week that should be, if they're doing their job, which I'm pretty confident they are, that reduces the friction 1% every time. And that will add up. And that's where the software really takes a lot off your plate, or the education part of it of what do I even do? Our software can help answer a lot of those questions, or we have a lot of free education that can help answer too. That can be a huge stressor. Yeah. Typing in ChatGPT, what do I do? Sometimes it's really helpful. I use it still, but like sometimes it's not the best answer, especially if you're working in legal terms. That can actually be terrifying.
Yeah, you always have to make sure when you use ChatGPT to cite your sources.
Yeah.
I remember asking questions about Section 8 stuff, and it was giving me information. Like I was looking in Alabama, and it was doing stuff in Illinois. I'm like, this isn't right. Out of curiosity, for your client base, are most of them investing out of state? So they're using this management software, or are they mostly in their own backyard?
Yeah, it tends to be a large portion have a property within, I think, 50 miles
Okay.
of where they're living. So there is a lot of that, but there is plenty, double-digit percentage points, I don't know off the top of my head,
Sure.
of people managing remotely. And so we've talked a lot about how can we make their lives easier. And we're coming out with a lot of things in the next month or so that will make specific markets a lot easier to manage remotely. LA is one of them. Where we'll have a lot of AI, but we'll also have managed services that can go and assist, and we'll charge a lot less than a property manager and a flat fee, no fees of anything else. This is just the price. And that's a solution that we've worked towards. Of there's only so much software can do. It's never going to be boots on the
Right.
ground. Can we get a few boots on the ground to service the entire city of LA? We think we can.
I will tell you, and you can let your people know, that one of the biggest challenges with self-management out of state is the showings.
Yeah.
Right?
We have a process where in this pilot, we can only do it at scale right now in some ways. We want to get professional photography. We're going to have the photographer come, get the key, put a remote lockbox on, take the photos, and we can show it remotely. And then when the property is rented, come and we'll grab the lockbox back. And only the specific person you allow can get into the property during a set period of time for safety reasons.
Sure.
That is our current solution for how can we show the property without having you find a neighbor or pay somebody else in that area or fly, which would be ridiculous. That's some of the things that we're working on, and we'll iterate and see if we can make it better in different ways. We haven't acted on it, but we've also thought about, we have landlords everywhere. I experienced as a tenant, I'll show the property, I'm already there. Are there landlords in the community that you feel pretty good at? Like they live next door to your property, maybe. Could we get your community? We haven't acted on that, but those are things that we've talked about because there are good people all around you that we work with. Is that an opportunity? So that's the value of the scale. But we talk about this all the time, and we test solutions that we feel really good about. And then we figure out if it's working and iterate and change them if it isn't.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you, that would probably be, because we've even talked about that with me and a business partner, because we own a couple properties together, and we've talked about the whole showing issue. And they're like, yeah, you could do the locks, but then you have to have internet. But then who's going to show up for the internet? Usually has to be the person for the internet. It's just like one thing after another. Luckily, we've been fortunate. And like another tenant was willing to show it or whatever. But yeah, it's like those little like frictions to your point.
And we've talked about the internet, and I can't share how, but we don't need the internet for our digital lockbox.
You don't need the internet. Oh my gosh.
It's actually pretty, we didn't build it, but it's whoever built these lockboxes, they had a smart idea. So we found that solution because what empty apartment has the internet? I mean, you could, but like, why pay for that on top of everything else? And then you have to go get your router. So like we go really deep into those details and have conversations. All right, let's do a lockbox. Cool. Like, should we install one on the front door? I have a remote lock for my house. No, that's ridiculous. That's a lot of money. What about a lockbox? What about a Supra? No one's going to have a Supra if they're not a realtor. Do we want realtors showing it? And then now all of a sudden you're paying the fees for it. We go down these paths to try and find what's actually going to work for a landlord that is trying to do it themselves, that are trying to avoid paying all these other things.
Because to your point, there's no margin. I wrote an offer on a place right now out of state, and I'm like, yeah, I want the full 6% credit towards closing costs. And I'm going to use most of the money to buy down the rate to make the numbers work. It's like, otherwise I got to offer like $1. Yeah. And I'm like, and I know that's not getting accepted. So let's find something in between. So we'll see. Of course, it's been on the market for 3 months. And the day I write an offer, there's multiple offers. So I'm like, screw you guys. But it is what it is. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about, and this is just more because I'm curious, on the back end as a company, like how are you guys like scaling? Because it's always, I can imagine it'd be tough to have all these different categories because there's so many different aspects of managing properties. How are you guys scaling? How are you guys keeping organized in that sense?
Yeah. The philosophy we have is build, partner, or buy. And we use bookkeeping, for example. We're not accountants. We don't have any. We have a few accountants on staff that are doing our own books, but that's not our expertise. And we found a company that was building software just for real estate investor accounting, bookkeeping.
Interesting.
So we partnered with them. We started building integration. We saw that our landlords really liked it. And then we had the opportunity to buy them. And then we built Turbo Tenant accounting through their software, which we had the time to transition everyone over. We built it even more in depth. So we partnered, then bought evictions. I don't think we want to get into evictions. No one wants an eviction anyway, but for us, it's better to partner with. It does. It's better to partner with experts where they do this all day. And fortunately, we only have so many people we're sending over to them a month, like less than 100, given our scale. Feels pretty good. But those are 50 people, we'll just call it 50, that they're working with an expert in evictions all day. And then there are things that we're talking about. Showings, we built a walkthrough, digital walkthrough, where the app can go through and film and take pictures and sign off on every room. That we knew we could build, so we built it. Those are the kind of things that we ask ourselves, like, what's the problem? Can we partner? Can we test? Can we learn? Or is there somebody out there that's just such a perfect fit that we should discuss maybe acquiring them? And because we've been so successful over the last decade, we have the ability to go acquire certain businesses. And what's going to be best for our business, and what's good for our business is usually good for our landlords, which is even better for our tenants. It's the route we go. And it's really a one-by-one basis of what's the problem. Is the problem even big enough? Sometimes that comes up. We ask for lots and lots of feedback from our users on a monthly basis. We have things that some people ask for that aren't very big. We ask 80,000 people a month minimum. This one question, 4 people have a problem. We're going to store it. Maybe it can be solved in a roundabout way, but if 80,000 people all say they have the same problem, I want to work on that first. So it's a feedback loop. It's a value loop. It's a what can we build? What can we partner? Things like that. And it's case by case.
That's interesting because people have asked me, what is the future of housing for LA? Because it's getting very complicated. And there's a couple different routes it could go. But one thought I had was like, we are probably heading towards the institutional investors. The mom and pops are getting pushed out because they can't handle the evictions. They can't handle that one bad tenant. I remember I had a client, I helped him buy a house and he wanted to get out of his lease. And they were trying to charge him astronomical fees for the carpet and all of that. But he's like, dude, I lived here for 5 years. I'm like, you're right. In theory, it's like there's wear and tear. But I'm like, hey, where are you renting from? And he told me some big company. I'm like, yeah, dude, just pay it. The reality is they have the scale to have the attorneys on staff. You can fight it, but it's going to cost, in this particular case, it's going to cost you a lot more.
Yeah.
Which is why I think some might get pushed out. But to your point, if the software supports them as if they were already an institutional investor, then there can be some balance. I don't want to say leverage. It's more about balance is really what we're looking for. Does that seem to be what you're noticing?
It's definitely a mission of ours to try and give the tools that these other institutional investors have. We're not going to give you the boardroom, the room full of attorneys. That part is going to be tough. And yeah, whenever I've seen corporations take over an entire industry, certain things get better, but then it all for them at the end of the day, and it doesn't excite me to have that. And I rented from both, and when I have a conversation with the independent landlord at the place I was renting when I lived in Florida, we just had a conversation, and when you're honest, you tell me, yeah, this makes sense. Oh, this doesn't make sense. I did some research, I shared, and we worked it out, and I also took care of the place really well.
Yeah.
When I lived in an apartment building of 400 units, like I couldn't even get them on the phone, as you said. So it was a different level of service, different life need for me. Like it was fun living 2 blocks from everything in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
There you go.
Free. Like I didn't have a lot of needs. Now I have a family with a lot of needs constantly. So those are the kind of things that I'd say it's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
I as an investor, I want to buy another property. Like I want to continue to build wealth. And while I love my job, it's super fun. I enjoy the people I work with. It pays my bills. If I want to really retire comfortably, it's the things I do outside of work to grow wealth are what are going to make my life better and change it. And that's what's been the case for me most of my time investing. If we take that away from large portions of the company, that gap of the haves and have not keeps growing.
Right.
And I don't think that's good. I think everyone being able to retire, afford luxury, that's a trip to me. Going on a trip could be luxury. Not like flying economy airlines, just going somewhere. Like that's the stuff that like a lot of our landlords talk about how they're using this rent income to go on a trip once a year. That's feels really good. That's making people's lives better. And I bet you they're taking really good care of their tenants too. Probably terrified to have a vacancy. And that's what disappoints me when I hear about institutional ownership just taking over everything, because that's not what they're in it for. They have investors, and you can invest in REITs? I don't know how to say it, but you can invest in those.
Yeah, REITs, DSTs, there's different things.
Like you can invest in them, and that's a little more passive. But there's also less stake in the game. There's less value for everybody. It's just money in, money out.
The challenge, and I'm going to eventually bring someone on about DSTs for the podcast. So DST is Delaware Statutory Trust. Basically, it's like a REIT, but the big thing is you can do a 1031 exchange into it. Okay. So that way you can defer your taxes. The challenge I had with it was you're completely passive, right? You don't have a say in anything, which for some people, that's perfect. And I even considered it. But then like I'm watching the webinars and they're like, yeah, you could invest in a property, may not have a mortgage. Now all of a sudden they decide to get a mortgage. And I'm like, okay, but now they're leveraged. Now I might actually make less money. And, you know, that we all know what happened with the commercial multifamily space where you have to get a balloon payment every 5 years. What if they, like, it was just like one thing after another. And I was just like, I think I prefer to have a little bit more control.
Yeah.
At least in some of the decision making.
Yeah. And I think that's what it all ends up coming back to, on however you invest and whatever you else want to do is, what do you want to control? To me, I want to control my investments. I think that's what makes them, I would say, more consistent. Now, if I had some rock star investor that does this all day and I trust them and they're really great, they probably would do better than me. But I don't know too many of them. And honestly, the people that I do know that are really incredible, they have also institutionalized what they've done. And they're just doing it at a massive scale now all of a sudden. And that's why I became an independent landlord, because I want to manage my own stock portfolio. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's enjoyable to see something grow. It becomes a game. That's who I am. And I think that's why I have good returns. Could they be better? Yeah. If I was an expert in this all day and that's all I did, I'm sure I could do better, but I feel really good and I feel proud of what I've done. I think that's what everyone should ask themselves. And I think you've talked about it a lot today. You have these investors you work with, you learn about what they're trying to do, and then you advise them. And that's where experts really become valuable. Of talk to people, figure out if you actually are crazy or if you have something, and then start to work through that. And maybe a property manager that you trust that's really good is the right decision because it doesn't fit into your life and that margin still makes sense.
I'll tell you, that's been one of the fun parts about my job is I've had clients where they had 0 rentals and I've helped them now accumulate 3. And like I have had clients that grew up on Section 8 housing. And here I am helping them buy their properties. I've had clients in their early 20s buy their first duplex. I'm like, I have a client right now, 19 years old. His parents are helping in some ways, but like he has his own money that he's worked hard for. And I'm like, this is cool. And the problem is a lot of realtors don't give those people the time of day. They're like, you're 20 years old. I'm not going to spend my time with you. Dude, are you pre-approved? Yes. Why wait?
Yeah. It's good you asked the pre-approved question because my sister's a broker in Florida and people show up in $100,000 cars with $4,000 in the bank account and they're not pre-approved. She's learning that she's like, all right, are you pre-approved? I can start showing houses. Oh, go get pre-approved first.
Yep. So. Yeah, you have to. And then it's always a tough part because people are like, I don't want to run my credit. I'm like, they're going to have to run your credit anyways. No. What I tell people is I'm going to be very honest with you. You think you're qualified for one price. 99% of the time, most of my clients are actually qualified for less than what they expected. And some are qualified for more. So we actually have to know.
Yeah. No,
And it's,
you don't want to be heartbroken. Like you're ready to make an offer and then you can't afford it all of a sudden.
or it takes 3-4 days to get the pre-approval.
Yeah.
And by then the property's gone. I'm like, you're wasting everyone's time. I don't really say it that way, but I try to find a nicer way. Okay. So as we wrap this up, what do you think is the future? Like, where are we headed for property management for these small to mid-size landlords?
Yeah, we chat about it in different ways already. So technology is going to be part of the game, no matter what. There's good technology and bad technology. And that's the part that when you work with a big software company and there's competitors out there, like you'll get a certain level of consistency. When you work with property management companies, they're either going to build it themselves because AI can do it. And I'd look under the hood if you can. Or they're going to go out and find these software companies that are targeting property management companies. And there's quite a few out there that you're going to get something, and then their margins are going to be what they are. Could be good, could be bad. They could be investing a lot. Then you're going to have softwares like us that are trying to target smaller investors that are trying to give them a lot of tools. And they're all going to grow, and they're all going to grow, honestly, in different ways.
Right.
Should we become a bank and offer checking accounts and banking? There's software out there that does that. We haven't acted on that yet. Should we start doing our own insurance? Better to partner, in my opinion. So there's all of these things, and like all of these aspects, they're going to evolve in different ways. Laws will change, things will change, but I think the adoption of all of this is going to continue to grow. Yeah. And my hope is rates go down low enough that all of these people with those 2 and 3% rates can now move out of their house because I think they've been stuck, and they're going to want to keep it. And there's going to be this new group of people that come that are all going to start renting. And hopefully that will move that line between institutional ownership, rentals, and these we're calling them mom and pop. I like independent.
Yeah.
There's going to be a growth in that area that will hopefully shift things where the market grows in the direction that hopefully it naturally will, which is the best thing for the customer, which is the tenants.
Yeah, I agree. I think there will be a shift, and I think it'll be a good one. The question is really what markets. I think it's going to be so market specific.
Yeah,
I agree. LA is going to be tough. I think New York's going to be tough for the coming years. But then we do have, I think even Florida and Texas, to be honest, are going to be tough because they've done such a great job keeping up with supply. Yeah. That it's going to be like, okay, if you can't compete against these really big apartment buildings, the only way you can compete on is price, unless you're in the single family space.
Yeah.
Where apartments can't compete. Okay, this has been awesome. I really appreciate it. How can people get a hold of you, Turbo Tenant, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, Turbo Tenant, turbotenant.com. If you're watching, I got it on my shirt. It's also in the
fancy
little description. And then Harrison Stevens on LinkedIn. Best way to get in contact with me. I spend doom scroll on some other channels, but I actually engage with people on LinkedIn. So that would be the best way to do it. If you're not watching, I'm the bald guy with a beard. There's a few Harrison Stevens out there, but I'm the only one that looks like this that I found. That's how you can find me.
There you go. You're the number one Harrison Stevens.
I'm the number one bald because there's another one that's a model, so he looks way better. And there's also a baseball player too. So
if you go on Zillow and look up agents, I'm the number one Rick Albert.
Okay, nice.
So originally there was a guy who actually had more. There's another one. And at one point, he had more reviews than me. And so I'm like, I'm the number 2 Rick Albert. I need to be number 1. And I actually had clients like, oh, crap, I never wrote a review for it. And they actually started writing reviews for me. So I becomes the number 1 Rick Albert on Zillow. So
if you're a Turbo Tenant customer and you came to listen to this, go on Zillow, search Rick Albert, and make sure you make him the number 1 Rick Albert on Zillow.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I appreciate it. All right. And thank you everyone for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Want to keep unlocking the secrets to building real wealth in Los Angeles? Stick around for the next episode. Tap the video on screen to keep watching.